So, what's going on in the cannabis industry right now? Well, it's in the middle of a massive shakeup. The early green rush days, they're long gone. What we're seeing now is this brutal sorting process where only the strongest, smartest companies are actually going to make it. We're calling it the Great Cannabis Winnowing, and it's basically separating the future giants of the industry from the companies that are about to be left in the dust. And this quote right here, it just nails it. The industry is finally growing up. It's moving past that wild, chaotic phase where it was just a land grab. Now it's all about discipline, it's about smart strategy, and it's about building real businesses that can scale up and last for the long haul. All right, so here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with this whole winnowing process. Then we'll look at the biggest policy shift to hit the industry in decades. We're going to uncover a huge financial crisis that's looming, explore the new rules for how you grow, see why everyone's looking to Europe, and finally we'll boil it all down to what it actually takes to be a winner today. First up, let's really unpack this core idea, the Great Cannabis Winnowing. This is all about separating the valuable players, the real gems, from those who are, well, about to get crushed. To really get what's happening, we're going to use this simple but really powerful idea, gems versus stones. Think of it this way. The gems, they're the companies built to last. They've got their finances in order, they run a tight ship operationally, and they're ready for the big institutional money. And then you have the stones. These are the companies drowning in debt, running inefficiently, and just getting squeezed by the market. They're the ones in real danger of crumbling. Okay, now for the big one. Let's look at the massive federal policy change that's hanging over the entire industry. It's a potential game changer that absolutely everyone is watching and waiting for. So, where did this all start? It really kicked into high gear back in December 2025. A presidential executive order came down that basically told the government to fast-track the process of moving cannabis to a lower schedule of controlled substances. This was the political trigger that just set the whole industry on a brand new course. So why is this move from Schedule I to Schedule III such a huge deal? Well, two big reasons. First, on a symbolic level, it means the federal government finally recognizes that cannabis has accepted medical uses. But second, and this is the one that really matters for business, it frees them from a crippling tax roll. Look at this, their effective tax rate plummets from a staggering 70 to 90% all the way down to a normal corporate rate around 21%. That's not just a change, that's a whole new world. But, and this is a big but, don't expect to flip a switch overnight. This is a slow, bureaucratic process. After the order was signed, you have the DEA, which has to issue its final rule. We probably won't see that until the third quarter of 2026, and that's the earliest. And even then, you can bet there will be legal challenges that could drag this whole thing out well into 2027. All right, so while everyone's waiting for policy changes, there's a much more immediate threat looming, a financial day of reckoning. And this is where that gems versus stones idea really comes into play. The pressure is about to get intense. $6 billion. Just let that number sink in for a second. This is the amount of debt that's set to come due across the cannabis industry by the end of 2026. It's a massive wall of debt. And this isn't some far-off, abstract number. Look at this breakdown. We are talking about the biggest names in the game: Curaleaf, Trulieve, Green Thumb. Each one of them is facing hundreds of millions of dollars in debt coming due all at the same time. It's creating a massive cash crunch. And here's the kicker, the part that makes this so brutal. Because cannabis is still federally illegal, these companies can't declare federal bankruptcy to restructure their debt. So for the stones, the companies with too much debt, they could just go under. And for the gems, well, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to swoop in and buy up valuable assets, licenses, facilities, brands for pennies on the dollar. So, in this incredibly tough new environment, the old ways of doing things, they just don't cut it anymore. The rules for how you grow and survive have totally changed. The focus isn't just on growing a plant anymore. It's about growing with extreme precision and accountability. You see, winners are no longer defined by hype. They're defined by cold, hard data. Just look at the difference here. The gems are running their operations like a Swiss watch, less than 5% variance between batches, using AI to interpret data in real time. Then you have the stones, still dealing with inconsistent results and logging data by hand. Cultivation isn't a craft anymore. It's a predictable, highly efficient financial machine. So if you're a cannabis company right now, how do you grow? You've really got three choices. Building from scratch, super risky and expensive in these crowded markets. You could buy another company that's faster, but you might just be buying their problems too. That's why partnering is becoming the go-to strategy. It's flexible, it doesn't require a ton of cash up front, and it's a much smarter way to expand. Now, with the North American market getting so crowded and so tough, where do you go? Well, the smartest companies are looking across the Atlantic. They're making an escape to Europe to find that next big wave of growth. Let's be real. The North American market is just hitting a wall. The early adopter states in Canada are oversaturated. There are too many producers, too many retailers, and it's led to these brutal price wars that just keep pushing prices down. The explosive growth phase here is over. So where is the growth? Get ready for this number, 3,300%. No, that is not a typo. That is the insane increase we saw in medical cannabis prescriptions in Germany in less than 2 years. The market there just absolutely exploded. And this chart says it all, doesn't it? On the left, you've got North America just kind of trudging along with slow growth. And then you have Europe. Just look at that green bar. It's a completely different story. It's an absolute rocket ship, and it explains why everyone is pivoting so hard. And believe me, the big North American players have noticed. They are already there, and they are making serious moves. For a company like Aurora, Europe now accounts for over 80% of its revenue. Curaleaf's international business grew 63% in just 1 year. For these guys, expanding into Europe isn't just a nice bonus, it's become a core part of their survival strategy. Okay, so we've talked about the debt, we've talked about policy, we've looked at the escape to Europe. Let's put it all together. What does it actually take to win in this brand new era of cannabis? It really all boils down to 3 key things. Here it is. This is the playbook for becoming a cannabis gem. First, you need financial resilience. Can you survive that $6 billion debt wall and actually make money? Second, operational excellence. Have you mastered your craft and turned it into a science using data to get predictable results? And third, institutional alignment. Are your books clean? Is your company run properly so that the big, serious investors waiting on the sidelines will trust you with their capital? And that leaves us with the big question that's hanging over this entire industry. We've gone from the Wild West to a serious, high-stakes business. And now we all get to watch and see who has the discipline, the strategy, and the grit to be forged into a gem, and who's about to be ground down into a stone.